Sometimes digital transformation leaders need a Tony Robbins moment. They need that motivational pep talk that's going to help them be successful. Well, what exactly would Tony Robbins or any motivational speaker say to you to help get you motivated? That's what I want to talk about here today. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients throughout the world reach their third stage of digital transformation success. And one of our roles as digital transformation consultants here at Third Stage is to help motivate project team members and leaders within organizations to be successful. And that's why I say that oftentimes our job is to be like Tony Robbins, to give that motivational speech, that motivational pep talk that organizations need. Now, maybe I'm not as tall as Tony Robbins. I may not be as energetic as Tony Robbins, but I'm here to provide some pep talk to you and your team to ensure that you're successful in your project. And if you don't know who Tony Robbins is, perhaps it's Oprah Winfrey, perhaps it's Deepak, or any other motivational speaker that you may know of. So keep in mind that this is a general motivational pep talk to help you be more successful in your transformation. Now, for more information and best practices on how to make your digital transformation successful, I encourage you to download our book called Lessons from 1,000 Digital Transformations. It's a book that covers a number of best practices and lessons learned and tips to make your digital transformation more successful. You can read that free book by scanning the QR code here in front of you, or you can go to the links in the description field below. The first motivational pep talk I can give you is to remind you that this is your project. This is not your software vendor's project. It's not your system integrators. It's not your outside consultants. It's your project. You're the organization and you're the team that has to live with the results of this digital transformation. So you want to treat it as such. You don't want to outsource this project to a third party. You don't want to delegate the project to the lowest parts of the organization. You want to take ownership and control of the project. And what this means is that you have an active role in the project. Your role is to make decisions. Your role is to make sure that the project stays on track. Your role is to make sure that the overall strategy and the deployment plan matches your organizational needs and priorities. Again, it's your project. You want to make sure you treat it as such. So that's one of the biggest things that I can remind you to do, is to keep in mind that this is your project and no one else's. The next motivational snippet I'll leave you with is to remind you that your business is unique. A lot of times the software industry is built around this concept of best practices and pre-configured solutions, one-size-fits-all solutions, and silver bullet types of answers. And at the end of the day, that's a great sales message, but it doesn't match reality. What does match reality is the fact that your organization is different. You're in a unique industry. Within your industry, you probably have a unique position, and you probably have unique ways of doing things, and you're doing those things for a reason. Now, don't get me wrong, there might be things you're doing that you should change. You're doing things for a reason that doesn't make sense, or it's not strategic. But there are a lot of things you're doing that do make sense. They're part of your competitive advantage. It's part of your differentiator in the marketplace. And the last thing you want to do is water down those competitive advantages because a software vendor tells you that they have a better answer. So there's a fine line between improving processes by using technology without necessarily having to water down those competitive advantages that you already have. And ultimately, you want to use technology to help you build on your competitive advantages, not completely change those or get rid of those. So regardless of what you might be told by the industry, it's important to recognize that your business is different, and you want to recognize what those things are that you want to build on and preserve. We as humans have some inherent flaws. One of the flaws that we have is that we tend to migrate towards things that we can see and touch and feel. And we tend to avoid or ignore things that we can't see and touch or feel. And this is true for digital transformations in that most of us as humans want to focus on things that relate to technology. Technology is something that we can touch, we can play with it, we can do a workflow, we can complete a transaction. But when it comes to human behavior and change management, that's a very nebulous term, and it's hard to see and touch and feel that. So a lot of times we ignore that. We center our digital transformation activities around technology. And that is the exact opposite of what organizations should be doing to be successful. So the motivational advice I can give you here is to take a stand and focus on the thing that is going to make your project successful. It's the number one success factor, that's change management. So if you have to choose between more technology or more change management, I assure you that if you focus on more change management, that's going to lead you down the path to success much more quickly than focusing on technology. Now, if you want to learn more about change management best practices and understand the tangible aspects of change management, I encourage you to read our Guide to Organizational Change Management. You can get that off our website. You can scan the QR code in front of you to access that, or you can go to the description field below for the links to that paper to help you understand what exactly change management is and how you can deploy it in your organization. At the end of the day, your people and your employees are much more important than any outside vendor. Oftentimes we see this interesting dynamic where organizations are more concerned about their software vendor or their implementation technical partner than they are their own employees. And a lot of times this is because vendors and system integrators are really good at playing the political game and doing things that work to their advantage and their own self-interest. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to be the one to cut through that noise and really focus on what's best for your organization and for your people. Now, another dimension of this too is to ensure that your people develop the capabilities they need and take a more active role in the digital transformation than they might be comfortable with. Now, this is a lot easier said than done because you bring in outside experts that know the technology really well, and oftentimes it creates sort of a learned helplessness as an organization. But it's really important that you take that time to slow things down with your software vendor and your outside technical implementer to ensure that you build the capabilities and that you get your own team involved. Because again, at the end of the day, your people are the ones that are going to be stuck with the good or the bad of whatever comes out of your digital transformation. So be sure that you recognize that your own people are a lot more important than any other third party or outside consulting firm. Every digital transformation runs into pitfalls, challenges, and risks. It's a matter of not are you going to run into those pitfalls, but what are you going to do when you do? And a lot of times organizations either ignore the pitfalls or they get reassured by their software vendor that everything's fine or it'll just somehow go away. But at the end of the day, you have to take ownership of these decisions to ensure that the project stays on track and that you keep it out of the ditch. So one of the most important things you can do as a leader and as a project team is to know when to pivot and know when to course correct, even if your software vendor doesn't want you to, or even if your system integrator or your reseller or technical implementation partner doesn't want you to. Again, it's your project. You want to make sure you keep the project on track. And if you need to scale back the army of resources that you're burning through cash on, maybe you do that. If the project's moving too fast and you're not able to consume the changes fast enough, then recast the plan and reset the tone and the tempo of the project. If you don't have enough resources on the project internally, slow down the project and slow down the run rate until you get the project staffed up the way you need to. If your leadership team isn't aligned on what they want out of this project, slow the project down or even pause the project until you figure that stuff out. It's not necessarily what any third party is going to want to hear, but it might be the thing that's best for your organization, and making those bold decisions is very important as you go through a digital transformation. Last but not least, it's important to recognize that digital transformations are difficult. What you're about to go through or what you are going through as an organization is going to be a challenge. However, it's not impossible. A lot of times organizations feel helpless or they feel like it's impossible, or they look at the statistics of 80% plus failure rates for digital transformations and they assume that they're destined for that same failure. The reality is it's not a secret and it's not rocket science as to why projects succeed and why they fail. In fact, I have a video right here, a full presentation from a conference that I recently presented at that talks about the difference between success and failure. What are the differences between successful implementations and unsuccessful ones? You can watch this video right here to dive into that in more detail. But for the purposes of today's discussion, it's important to recognize that the project will be difficult, but it's not impossible and you can do it. So I hope this has given you some guidance and some motivation to be successful in your project. I know there's a lot of noise out there around failures and challenges with projects and a lot of uncertainty and ambiguity around what it takes to be successful. But at the end of the day, it's not that complex. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's challenging, but there are things you can do to be successful. And ultimately, it starts and ends with you, the project team, the leadership team, and the overall organization. You're the one that's going to make this project successful. So if you're looking for other best practices and lessons on what it will take to make your project successful, please check out our book called Lessons from 1,000 Digital Transformations. You can read that book by scanning the QR code right here, or you can go to the links in the description field below. So I hope you found this information useful and hope you have a great day. Here. Yeah. So the motivational I could have, Another motivational pep talk. Dimension, that doesn't make sense. Okay, let me start that one over. That makes no sense.
I like that.
Motivational dimension. I'm just making up words now.
All you need to do is that.
Yeah, like he must know what he's talking about because he said quantum and motivational dimension.
Exactly.
So I hoped I hoped
Yeah.
I hoped that I helped to do something.